Greetings, everybody out there on the internet. This is Emmett Watkins Jr., also known as EJ Sponge61, on various places on the internet: Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Tumblr, everything else. I am here to tell you, or less to tell you, more to just talk about E3 2018 once again. Last night I uploaded a video talking about the third-party publishers and what I hope to see from a lot of them. This video is going to be somewhat similar. I'm going to be talking about my hopes and dreams for the first-party publishers. There's a lot that I'm looking forward to from PlayStation specifically, but I do have a few things I want to talk about when it comes to Microsoft and also when it comes to Nintendo. But we're going to go ahead and go in order of, you know, what I have least hopes for versus what I have the most hopes for. PlayStation, of course, being my biggest deal in the world. I'm a big PlayStation dude. If you guys have seen other videos on my channel, pretty much every game I play is on PlayStation, some of which are actually exclusives. So we're going to go ahead and get into this talk, and we're going to start with Nintendo. Now, Nintendo they have an interesting lineup here. Now, I know for a fact, because I actually don't even own any modern Nintendo consoles right now. There's probably a Wii somewhere in the closet, but I'm not even counting that. But, you know, I do like observing, because I don't actually own an Xbox system as well, but I like observing what Microsoft is doing, and I like observing what Nintendo is doing anyway, because what they do is going to have an effect on PlayStation as well. Because they all are really close competitors, and I don't always wish for the demise and for the failures of these two, because good competition only helps to improve the PlayStation ecosystem as well. So I do hope some of these guys come out swinging with some things, and we're gonna go ahead and talk about that for Nintendo. So first off, the biggest thing that Nintendo probably has: Super Smash Bros. For Switch. I can't get away from the popularity of Super Smash Bros. Not that I really try to, but as a big PlayStation fan, you can probably imagine, as I've talked about in my MomoCon video as well, I completely adore PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and I can't love that game without someone shitting on it for not being Super Smash Bros. So I want people to enjoy this new Smash Bros. Game. And, you know, if it's anything like Melee or Brawl before it, I think this is going to be good. I'm hoping they get really weird with the cast, because I do enjoy seeing these out of left field characters show up, like the Ice Climbers that were in, I want to say, Brawl back in the day. I just really see, or I think it was Melee actually, I just like seeing just out of the wall things from really old corners of the history of Nintendo. Similar to how Epic Mickey, if you guys remember that game used a lot of the older aspects of Disney lore, you know, stuff like Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, things that no one even referenced or thought even existed still. I like it when Nintendo does some weird, quirky stuff like that, so I hope that they take advantage of that. Now, the thing about Smash Brothers as well is that the love for Smash Brothers is so grand and so great that just the sheer impact of that name alone can get a lot of guest characters from outside of the Nintendo exclusive family. They did that with DLC characters for the last game. They had Bayonetta in it, which, you know, had games on 360 and PlayStation before it, even though those games are effectively Nintendo exclusives now. And they also had a Cloud from Final Fantasy VII in the last game as DLC. And before that, they had Solid Snake as well. Though that was mainly to tie in with the GameCube remake at the time of Metal Gear Solid 1. But that's besides the point. So there's a lot of hype going on. People are hoping to see some crazy guest characters from Super Smash Bros. Switch. There are two characters I'd like to comment on. Some people are speculating with Microsoft maybe not being friendly with Nintendo, but, you know, there's a lot of talk of crossplay and that whole concept, and how Sony really doesn't allow for crossplay, and that many developers say they could hit a button and switch it on today, but Sony is really the one saying they don't want to participate, so it holds it up for everyone else. Microsoft's been very open to it, and Nintendo just is indifferent to any online interaction at all, so they're not going to block it. And so that has led to stuff like, you know, the Minecraft on Switch has crossplay with Minecraft on Xbox and PC and everything else, and mobile as well. and that's done through Microsoft, through Xbox Live, their online service. And so therefore you can imagine why it's not on PlayStation. But people have thought that that partnership might lead to a little bit more communication with Microsoft, and that we might see a Microsoft character, a character for one of their first party franchises in Super Smash Bros. I can't really look at this as a valid thing. But if it was to happen, it's going to be a guy from Minecraft. It has to be a guy from Minecraft. No way they're going to put, Marcus Phoenix in this game, because, for as many people love that game, what is the cross section of Super Smash Bros. Fans and Gears of War fans? And I feel like you could say a very similar thing with Halo, though I do think the age range and the general people who enjoy Halo, I think there's a lot more crossover, but I think those are two completely different audiences. I think the only Microsoft character you could bring over that would still be a very exciting character to reveal, because they could, give one of the rare characters or something like that, but that's not going to get people too hyped. There was Banjo-Kazooie in it. It wouldn't set the world on fire. What would set the world on fire would be Steve from Minecraft. Minecraft is what I think is going to happen. What I hope will happen, because man, that would be crazy. I think it'd be crazy to see any character from a Microsoft studio, but if there was anything, my bet would be on Steve. And also, people are also saying with the Crash Bandicoot collection, the Insane Trilogy, coming out on Switch within the next few weeks/months, people are speculating that Crash Bandicoot could possibly make an appearance in Super Smash Bros. For Switch. Now, to me, this seems completely preposterous. As I've already said, I'm a big PlayStation fan, and I feel like it was a travesty that in PlayStation All-Stars they did not have Crash, they did not have Spyro. Those are two of the biggest PlayStation icons of all time. Whether or not those are owned by Sony anymore, those are both Activision properties. So I feel like Sony would really be shooting themselves in the foot if they didn't hold on to those rights for those characters, or just did something to lock them down from not being used in a character fighter like this. Because I don't think Sony's working on a PlayStation All-Stars 2, because at this point I feel like they would have shown it off or done something with that name. But I feel like it's on the table. I feel like that's something that they could consider coming back to, because ultimately the failing of that first original game was timing, polish, and it was just too close to Smash, where people just couldn't let it be a game on its own, and they just had to bring that baggage with them. So I think they're gonna want to avoid that. So I think they're gonna come back, or I think they should come back with another PlayStation All-Stars game, but no time soon. Maybe like the last game you see on PlayStation 4, maybe a launch title on PlayStation 5 for all we know, because they got that momentum. But yeah, I just can't see Crash being on Super Smash Brothers. If Activision really doesn't give a fuck and Sony does nothing to stop it, that could happen. If that happens, that's not something I want. That's just gonna really suck the life out of me, because if Crash Bandicoot ends up in Super Smash Brothers, then that is almost a certainty that he's not going to show up in a PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and that is a certainty that I will never get to see him run around with all my favorite PlayStation characters, and that's just going to really rip my heart out. So that's the last thing I want to see. Starting off this video on a low note, I know it's supposed to be the hype moments, but that's I know it'll be hype for everyone else in the world, but as someone who just is completely indifferent to actually owning Nintendo products most of the time, that's just going to rip my heart out, so I just don't want to see that. But that's pretty much all I have to say for Super Smash Bros. On Switch. I'm sure the game will be fun no matter what. We'll just see what happens. Briefly going through these other ones, Let's Go Pikachu, or not Let's Go Pikachu, just the new, I know they announced those new Pokemon Go-esque Pokemon games coming to Switch, but I would be interested in learning more about this full-scale Pokemon RPG that they have coming soon. I know that's not coming until next year, so I wonder if they'll show anything about it here at the convention, or if they'll just wait till they have their own random Nintendo Direct to talk about it. That's the thing about Nintendo. You never feel like they're saving anything for E3. They just announce it when they're ready, because they do these Nintendo Directs every so often. Nintendo Directs, if it's really hype, everyone will be erect. Yeah, so I just don't see them showing off that Pokemon game until they're closer to release, but I think it would be cool if we saw some footage, but I'm not holding my breath, to be completely honest. Another Yoshi game for Switch might be a possibility. I'd like it if they continue with that yarn Yoshi concept, but I know they showed gameplay or something like that last year, so I don't want to hold my breath. I'm honestly not remembering what that footage looked like back when they showed off that test footage. They showed it last year, but you know, those Yoshi games seem cool. No interest in Mario Tennis Aces, no interest in Octopath Traveler. Bayonetta 3 could be cool. I am still just a little bit envious that the Bayonetta franchise became a Nintendo exclusive. As someone who was interested in that first game back on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, I never did get around to playing it. That is one of those games I missed, and I'm a pretty big fan of not just Platinum games, but character action games in general. I actually picked up the Devil May Cry collection, and I'm hoping to get to that as well. But yeah, Bayonetta, those games always look cool. They always look marvelous. So I'm excited to see how a third one's going to fare. I like seeing the new hairstyles Bayonetta has, because I never actually played the game, so I just like seeing the new character art and stuff. And I like when people get hype about that. That seems like a game that I would enjoy if I ever do pick up a Switch. That is one that I would definitely try out. The combo pack with Bayonetta 1 and 2. And now, finally, or is this finally? Here, I'll come back to that. So we have a new, now everyone's thinking, what's Retro's game? Retro has to announce their game soon. The rumor is that they have a Star Fox game coming, and it's going to be kind of in the style of F-Zero. If that happens, I'll be very, very interested to see that. Star Fox is a franchise that Nintendo has that it feels like the redheaded stepchild of their entire stable. While Metroid is, you know, a super hyped series still to this day, despite not having a really outstanding entry in a while. Same thing with Mario. His games are always phenomenal. Zelda, their games are always phenomenal. But when you talk about Star Fox, it's kind of a tattered history. You had that game on Wii U that just did not work well for many people, really anyone it seemed. And then you had, you know, games from earlier in the franchise that were hit or miss here or there, and then, you know, but there's still a lot of nostalgia associated with Star Fox, so they keep them around. I would really like to see Star Fox just get an amazing game. Be that a racing game or be that something completely different that no one has guessed yet. I kind of do want Star Fox to have its time in the spotlight, because I feel like Nintendo leans on Metroid, leans on Zelda, leans on Mario so heavily, and Pokemon as well. It would be cool to see them have another pillar that stands as tall. I always feel like Star Fox is, if once again PlayStation fan, if you compare it to how the Killzone franchise was viewed in the eyes of so many people before Horizon Zero Dawn came out. Everyone knew those were good games, but people just didn't care about it. It just didn't excite people. And sure, those games sold well, I suppose, but you know, no one knows the main character from Killzone 2. No one knows the main character from Killzone 3, the same person. And even fewer people could tell you about Mercenary on Vita or Liberation on PSP. So I feel like Star Fox is redheaded stepchild, so I'd like to see that series done a little bit of justice. And let's see, one quick thing I want to say, Metroid Prime 4 is the one that I have kind of more elaborate thoughts about, but I do really quickly want to say I would be very interested if they do. Now, I don't think this is an actual rumor, but I keep hearing on this Kind of Funny Gamescast, Jared Petty talks, not often, but I have heard him talk of a Mario Maker, but for The Legend of Zelda, and for like the top-down style, you know, like Four Swords back on the Game Boy Advance. I think that would be a really compelling idea. The idea of making those tools that they created in Mario Maker, that are meant for, you know, just strict platforming levels, and seeing all the crazy things people made with those tools. If you made those tools a little bit more elaborate to allow for making complete dungeons with different puzzles, possibly with different enemies, with different fail states and stuff, I think that could be a really cool idea. And if it works like, you know, Little Big Planet's community or Mario Maker's community before it, there could be some really, really cool and crazy dungeons / levels or anything. And I do think that's also a really good evolution of that concept for Mario Maker. Much like in Little Big Planet, That game started as make your own platforming levels, and then people just abuse those tools to do all types of crazy stuff. I think you could see something similar with Legend of Zelda, with Mario Maker as well. Mario Maker, that was meant for platforming levels. They abused those tools in a good way and made something completely unique. I think in Little Big Planet 2, they made those tools more complex, more developed, and you could do a lot more things with them. And then they abuse them even more to make even crazier things. I think the same thing could happen if there is a customizable Legend of Zelda and possibly a 4-player co-op. I think that would be a good idea, especially if it is on Switch. And yeah, I think that would be cool. And lastly, I want to talk about Metroid Prime 4. Metroid Prime 4, I am very interested in this because one of the few games that really catches my eye from Nintendo's camp is Metroid Prime the series. Now, I've seen the Metroid Prime games being played on GameCube and everything. Those always look like solid games. As someone who is admittedly a shooter fan, if you look at a lot of the gameplay commentaries on my channel, those games always look really cool. And then the combination of what seemed like if not puzzle solving, maybe not technically puzzle solving, maybe not technically platforming, but using your powers to get the other way. It's like Metroidvania basically, and this is Metroid, so that makes sense. I like that. I like using that type of gameplay style within a first-person shooter. That has always really appealed to me, so I'm very interested to see if they're going to evolve that at all in Metroid Prime, and if so, how are they going to do so? I want to see what. I just want to see what this game could be, because I'm still having a little bit of a hard time believing that, you know, if because they could easily just remaster the original 3 Metroid Prime games and, you know, sell a good 1 million copies at least off of that alone. So if they're coming with a 4th game, they have to be changing it up in some way. I have no clue how they're doing that, but I'd be very excited to see how they do so. So that's it for Nintendo. I'm sure other people will get way more hype at those announcements than I. But we're going to roll over into Microsoft. Now, Microsoft, I'm very excited to just see what they have up their sleeves. I feel like they have the most to prove this E3 by far. They've actually, earlier today, they revealed that Crackdown 3 is likely not to even be at E3, but they actually announced it's going to be pushed back. It won't be releasing this year. It's going to be releasing in February of 2019. That kind of sucks. Sucks it started a bad note for Microsoft, but Crackdown 3, as someone who's a big fan of open world superpower games, you're talking to someone who got a platinum in Prototype 2, just because I enjoy that genre so much. I was interested to see what Crackdown 3 would be, at least see some, you know, a long amount of gameplay at least, and just see what that game's about, because the original Crackdown games did appeal to me, though I never played them. But it's sad to see that Crackdown 3 is not going to be here, but hopefully that will leave room for some other surprises and other interesting things to come out during this press conference. I'm sure we're going to get another Forza Horizon game. As someone who really digs the more casual racing games, you're talking to a big Fallout fan here. I got 2 platinums in Burnout Paradise, so big fan of these arcade racers. So Forza Horizon, once again, while I haven't played it, that is definitely a game that appeals to me, and I look forward to it. I feel like it's been quite a while since Gears of War 4 came out. It's been a couple years, so I think you could see another look. You could see another Gears game. Gears of War 5 is a possibility, I feel like. I don't know if that would excite me, though, so I'm not going to focus on that too much. Now, here's the thing I'm really interested in. Halo 6, or just another Halo game in general. There's been so much talk about this because it seemed like by a lot of measures, Halo 5 was not that big of a success. I think critically it did well when it first dropped, but I think, you know, kind of left a bad taste in people's mouths. I think there were a lot of changes and things done with the story to Halo that made people kind of cool down on it and stuff. So I'm not exactly sure if they're going to go ahead and go all out and do a Halo 6 and continue the story from 5. I feel like they'd have to, just because I don't know how the story from 5 ended, but I feel like that is something that they're going to want to wrap up and put a bow on. So something tells me they didn't leave it with closure at the end of it, at least not entirely. So I feel like they do need to come back and give another Halo, since it has been so long. I'm just not believing that they're only going to have one Halo game this console generation. I just can't believe that, even with the Master Chief Collection. But I think it's time for a new Halo game. But I'm very excited to see what form that Halo game is going to take. Is it going to be an ODST / Reach-like, where they're not even focusing on Master Chief and they're just giving you another tale in this universe? Is it going to be, they could even do something crazy with the Master Chief Collection, and surprise, we remastered Halo Reach and you guys get it all free because we know we fucked over all of you guys by releasing a poorly made product. I could see something like that. I do feel like this is the year we're going to get Halo news, but if it's not a full game, I think people are going to be upset. But even if it is a full game, I think if it's a sequel to what a lot of people have considered a disappointing game in Halo 5, I think you're still going to have people upset. So they're in a rock and a hard place with Halo right now. I hope they can, drive out of it, because I really do think Microsoft is doing a great job with the, if not their exclusive games, because that is by far the case, their services are top notch. And over here on the PlayStation side, I'm definitely jealous for a lot of these services. You got your Game Pass, which seems like a great deal. Your backwards compatibility, which as someone whose half of my gaming shelf is still PS3 games, that would be a godsend for me. Wouldn't need my PS3 anymore. But yeah, I can't see them doing anything crazy on that side. To dig deeper into it, I'm sure they're going to have a bunch of indies. I'm sure there's going to be a showcase, and I'm sure inevitably some of those games are going to stick out and seem really interesting to us. But what I'm really excited for when it comes to Microsoft, number one, I think because they have such little known quantities to show, there's only so many franchises that they have, that they own, that they can show off. I think this is the year that they show off a few big guns. Now, I do know that Playground Games, the developer behind Forza Horizon, they've actually been allowed to make a non-racing game. So they are working on what I believe is an open world game of some sort, and it is not a driving game. Very interested to see what that is. Lots of rumors it's going to be another Fable game, that long lost franchise. But I am not certain. I'm not sure how certain I am on that. I think that not only do I think Playground Games is not interested in making yet another Fable game, even though that series has long been dormant. To me, I feel like they'd be more interested in something a little bit more modern, especially with their time with the Forza Horizon series. I feel like their mindset is not going to be back in the ye old times of Fable lore. So I think that they might just be working on an outright new IP. I think that would be cool. Maybe they're working on one of Rare's older franchises. Maybe it's like an open world Perfect Dark or something crazy like that. But I just don't see them returning to Fable anytime soon. So that's just me personally. And I think I think Microsoft has at least one super crazy out of left field announcement. They got some secret developer hiding somewhere, making them, something to compete with some of Sony's franchises. We already talked about Playground Games and their open world game, but they could announce at this E3, whether or not it's Playground, some type of open world game to compete with the Horizon Zero Dawns. They could announce, something to compete with what Sony's got going on, because with God of War, I could see them announcing some type of melee combat game, because I think that is a genre that is not being treated too well on Xbox systems, especially with God of War just coming out. That was such a great combat, Dark Souls super light type game. I feel like Xbox would really be served well if they had a game like that. And now I'm thinking about it, Bloodborne's on PlayStation as well. So I think they're looking for a game like that, and I think that if they're going to announce a really cool, crazy IP, that is the genre that it would be. I'd be excited to see that, and of course, any of these big three consoles manufacturers doing great is great for me. So I'm very excited to see that. So that's what I want from them, but I also think we're going to see a lot of third-party developers on the Xbox stage showing off their things. And these games, of course, are going to be on the big three. Not all these are probably going to come to Switch, but at least on Xbox and PlayStation, you will see most of these games. I already see there's a big Xbox partnership with Battlefield, so I can expect something Battlefield related is probably going to be shown. What I'm betting is EA Play actually happens before the Microsoft conference, so what I'm betting is you'll see multiplayer at the EA Play event, and then you'll see a little bit of single player gameplay at the Xbox event. I feel like that just makes sense. Battlefield is going to be the Xbox shooter, while Call of Duty has its branding attached to PlayStation, so that just makes sense to me. I think once again, the Tomb Raider series is going to have hopefully not another just straight up exclusivity period with Xbox, but they're definitely getting marketed together. So we're going to see more Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I hope it is not another wait a year and then it'll come out on PlayStation 4 and PC after. I don't think those partnership deals always seem like bullshit to me. It's either it's a complete exclusive or it's not. These whole timed exclusivity deals, while I completely understand what they're for, kind of just seem pointless. Like, I totally picked up Rise of the Tomb Raider a good year and a half after it first came out, just because it was on sale. It had all the DLC. That's how a lot of people are going to play these games. Maybe there was a higher likelihood of them picking it up, because I'm sure I would have bought that game for the same price if it didn't have any of the DLC in a hypothetical, Game of the Year edition release later. I'm sure I would have bought it for just as cheap, and have done it sooner because it would have gone on sale faster, because it would have been on PlayStation 4 longer. That's just how I feel about it. Maybe a little bit of salt in there as a PlayStation fan, but I hope they have some legitimate exclusives here. And for Shadow of the Tomb Raider, I'm sure we're going to see gameplay. I'm very excited for that, especially since this Square Enix conference it seems like it's only going to be about an hour long, so I question how much you can actually show in that. So if there's anything extra they want to show, they can do more extended looks at this Xbox press conference. And other than that, I don't know what other third parties they could invite on stage. People have speculated Rocksteady would be a good candidate there, just because Xbox really needs something to show at their conference. I could see Rocksteady there, but then I think about it, and all the Batman games have had a heavy, or at least Batman Arkham Knight and Batman VR, those have had a heavy partnership and partnering deal with PlayStation. So it's hard for me to see Rocksteady switching sides, even if it has been many years since those two games came out. I can't see Rocksteady switching so quickly, unless they feel their game just really does fill a hole that Xbox has, despite also coming on PlayStation. And I heard other people saying, CD Projekt Red, with the guys who made The Witcher 3, people think that they could show up on the Xbox stage. Once again, I think another really good candidate, and I do vaguely remember a lot of The Witcher 3's content not having an exclusivity with the Xbox brand, but just being marketed alongside Xbox and whatnot. So I could see that definitely. I could see them coming with Cyberpunk. I think it's 2079. I forget the name, but I could see them bringing Cyberpunk to this conference. And if they do show gameplay, I do hope it is just The Witcher with gun combat instead of melee. Because as someone who played The Witcher for about 2 hours, the melee combat was not really to my liking for whatever reason. I hope it's just gun combat in this new one, because I will be all the way there. If they can do gunplay right, let me make sure I say that. But yeah, I'd be interested in it. I'm interested to see what that game is, and if they do show up on the Microsoft stage, I'll be very excited. And I feel like it is fairly likely, because I don't think CD Projekt Red, they're so big at this point that they can't just come to the show floor and do demos with just the GameSpots and IGNs of the world. They need to be on a main stage somewhere, and I think they're big enough to take it to Microsoft. So that's more or less what I think of the Microsoft conference as far as games go. I'm hoping to see some more features, push those console features, push those online services, because Xbox really is the king of that. And this is your time to have the audience have the world's attention. So really hammer home and make those known, because those are really good services, and ones I had hoped that PlayStation would get after a while, but there's no guaranteeing that. And speaking of PlayStation, we are now going to roll over into PlayStation's E3 press conference. So, lots to talk about. Of course, this is my biggest spot of expertise, so there's a lot to talk about for the PlayStation press conference. First off, so they already announced that they're going to be bringing 4 games, specifically 4 games, to the press conference. They're going to be showing off Death Stranding, Spider-Man from Insomniac, Last of Us Part 2, and Ghost of Tsushima. Let's start with Death Stranding real quick. I really do believe this is the year we get Death Stranding gameplay. I just think it's about time. I think we've been looking at this game for damn near 3 years now with these cool, artistic, very strange and weird trailers. At this point, I feel like it's shit or get off the pot. And while people enjoy these trailers, I think they're a little bit tired of just the trailers. I think they want to see a little bit of the actual game, especially with rumors swirling around that people have been playing sections of it. Actually, not rumors. I think they're straight up quotes from like Norman Reedus that he's played the game, or at least parts of it. So I think it's time we see gameplay. I think we're going to come away from E3 actually knowing like what genre this game is, what type of game this is going to be, and maybe a little bit of the gameplay loop as well. I'm very interested for that. So I'm looking forward to that. I think gameplay is going to happen. I want gameplay to happen. I'm hoping. I've heard that it's going to be like stealth action, which really appeals to me because the stealth games that I tend to enjoy more are games where when things do switch over into action, don't completely fall apart. I actually played a lot of the Deus Ex games, specifically Human Revolution on PlayStation 3. That game was a fun stealth game, but once you had to get into gun combat was very clunky. And if Metal Gear Solid 5 is any indication, Kojima can do gun combat fairly well, if not really, really well. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes. And I think the gameplay is going to impress. And I think it's going to be really trippy and just freak people out in some way. I'm looking forward to seeing the reaction to that, even if I'm not specifically like. As far as Kojima goes, I'm not the biggest Metal Gear fan. Played Metal Gear 4 and that's about it. I know that's a travesty to start with that one, but everyone talked about it. Everyone was hyping it up. Played it, and I was like, oh, this is the type of game where I should have played all the other ones in order to understand the impact for all these characters. But I own Metal Gear Solid 5. I do intend to come back around to that one. So yeah, I'm interested to see what Kojima does. I like seeing what Kojima does more than experiencing what he does to his games. He's just a fascinating man to watch, and I look forward to see what he has here. And if I see the right stuff, maybe I'll be interested in picking it up. Next up, Marvel's Spider-Man. Very, very, very excited for this one. I've been an Insomniac fan since the beginning of my video game playing experience. Spyro the Dragon's the first game I played, and that's one of their first games they ever made. So yeah, I'm really excited for Spider-Man. As someone who literally broke down in tears after watching Spider-Man Homecoming, that clip exists somewhere, I'm sure, on someone's Snapchat or something probably. Spider-Man is a really big character for me. One of the first big superhero movies that I really fell in love with. I'm talking about the ones with Tobey Maguire back in the day. And then Homecoming I of course love. So I'm really jazzed to see more about this character, even if it is in, Insomniac's own universe. They're doing their own thing with Spider-Man. So I'm very interested to see what that's going to be about and how Miles Morales is actually implemented in the game somehow. I'm interested to see his involvement and what exactly that means. And I think what I hope happens, I hope that Insomniac is going to show off the main villain of the game, because they've showed Mr. Negative for a while now, but I think they've also said that Mr. Negative is one of the lower key villains, and with Osborn seemingly having been done with, so no Green Goblin, and Kingpin seems to be in prison already, so no Kingpin. I think they have something else up their sleeve. Could be Venom, could be Sandman, could be Doc Ock. Not entirely sure yet. I feel like we're going to find out at this E3. When they actually released, when Insomniac released information for the collector's editions of Spider-Man, they have a collectible statue there, and the bottom half of it is cut off. You can't see what the rest of the statue is. So Spider-Man is sitting on top of something, and I think we're going to find out what that something is. And of course, I think that something is going to be the big bad of the video game. So I'm very excited to see more gameplay. I think we've seen plenty of gameplay at this point. I would like to see a little bit more of what the gameplay loop is going to be. I have a pretty good idea of what we're doing moment to moment. I know I'm going to be swinging. I know the rope swinging is very intuitive. They seem to have put a lot of thought into that. And I know that we're going to be beating up a lot of bad guys and kind of doing the Arkham Asylum thing of getting on the banisters and stealthing around. I'm interested in all that, but I'd like to know, like, what's the upgrade system? Am I earning XP for all these enemies? I know there's some upgrade systems, but how exactly does that work? And I know every costume has a different ability, so I really want to know like how all of this is going to work into the gameplay loop of the game, which like the more long-term goals that you're working up towards in gameplay. I'm sure it'll be story based, but I'm talking like, you know, I play for 20 hours and am I ranking up? Is it like level based and I get skill points to put in a skill tree or something like that? Or is it something a little bit more shallow? Is it like Batman Arkham Knight where you're spending points? I just want to know what exactly the gameplay loop is, and I have a feeling that we might be able to find that out soon with this upcoming preview in E3. Ghost of Tsushima. Now, Sucker Punch is one of my favorite developers that Sony has in their roster. The Infamous games are some of my favorite games of all time. Infamous 2 was my favorite game of all time for a really, really long time. Said long time for a long time. So I'm very interested to see what they do. Now, I've played all the Infamous games. I've gotten platinums in every single Infamous game. So I know that they're really good at traversal specifically. They're really good at, you know, allowing you to climb these buildings, giving you these powers that make traversal, if not simpler, at least more interesting. And that's the main thing I'm concerned about in Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima seems to be completely grounded. And it's not only a more serious tone and a more serious aesthetic, but it's also going to be much more. It's grounded with the timeline as well. It's set way back in the past, so I doubt that there's going to be anything too crazy. No superpowers or anything. So I question how they're going to do traversal and how they're going to handle that. Because at this point, I associate Sucker Punch with their great traversal mechanics, and I don't know how much that's going to carry over into Ghost of Tsushima. That is my biggest fear, because that's really what I look forward to from that studio. So I don't know if we can expect it in this game. But nonetheless, it seems like this is going to be a game focused on melee combat. And with Infamous 2, I really dug a lot of the melee combat they had in Infamous 2. Even though that wasn't as prevalent in Infamous Second Son. So I'm very interested to see what they do with melee combat once they get to build that entire melee system out into a full game. I think that's going to be, you know, a fun combat system, and I'm very much so looking forward to it. I just don't know, like, that traversal is the main hang up, so I hope they show me something to ease my pressures there. And with this being a samurai game, I imagine, I'm not exactly sure how nimble they're trying to make their samurais in this game, but I'd hope that, you know, you can, you know, run up walls and climb things and then jump on people from rooftops. Actually really similar to Assassin's Creed. I'd like for that traversal to be there. I don't know how likely it is, but we're gonna find out in just a couple more hours. You know, maybe 36 from when you're watching this video. Not too long to go, just the rest of the weekend. So very excited to see what Ghost of Tsushima will show us in this press conference, but, you know, can't hold my breath yet. And then we have Last of Us Part 2. Now, I am, of course, very excited for Last of Us. I played the first one long time ago on PlayStation 3, blown away. Played it again on PlayStation 4, still just as great. I don't know what to expect for Last of Us 2. With that announcement trailer, they made it seem like it was another Ellie and Joel story with that, you know, intro trailer with Ellie playing the guitar and everything, and Joel's coming up in honor in the room. But then after that, the next year at PSX, they showed off what seemed to just be a cutscene of a woman that no one has ever seen before in the game, alongside an Asian woman of some sort and what looked like another Asian girl with a shaved head. Don't know who any of those characters are. A lot of speculation that the main character of that trailer, the young lady, the white woman, there's a lot of speculation that that is Ellie's mother, and that this game is going to be a bit of a Godfather 2 type thing, where there's a couple of flashbacks where you play as the mother to find out more context for the present. But there's not a lot to go off of with what we have already. I couldn't tell you any plot details. I know that the game is supposed to be about anger. The first game is about, you know, coming back from anger and then, you know, softening your tone and redemption, I suppose. And trust and all that. It's supposed to be about more lighthearted things. The second game is supposed to be way more aggressive, way darker. So I'm wondering how they're going to accomplish that. I hope I'm almost certain we're seeing gameplay. Especially where I remember in the Days Gone, actually Days Gone got a release date recently. That's something I might talk about later. Days Gone has gotten its release date for February of 2019. So, and then they already said in interviews that Days Gone is definitely coming out before The Last of Us. So with that early release date for Days Gone, I feel like there's a good chance that fall is going to be our Last of Us date of next year, fall of next year. So I think gameplay is a certainty. I hope gameplay is a certainty. Jesus Christ, I'm ready to see how this game just plays. And I just think they gotta put more of their cards on the table. Now, because I don't even know what the main narrative of The Last of Us 2 is going to be. I have a feeling once we leave E3, we might know that. But it just depends, especially with gameplay. I feel like we just have to know by then. So I'm very much so looking forward to The Last of Us Part 2. I hope they show, I hope Ellie's back. I hope it's more adult Ellie. Ellie is my favorite character. If Joel's dead, I'm cool with that. There was a lot of speculation where everyone's like, okay, they're going to kill Joel, and then it's just going to be Ellie's revenge to get back at the people who killed Joel, and then he'll pop up in like dreamlike sequences similar to Batman Arkham Knight with the Joker in it. I think that is still a possibility, but I don't know, man. I just want Ellie to be the main character of this game. Whether or not we're going back in time to play with her mom, I'm sure that's cool. But I want Ellie to be the main character. I hope this gameplay that is shown off is us playing as Ellie. But, you know, really playing as Ellie, because we did play as her in the first game, as you might know. So, spoiler alert, but I think you played the game by now. We did play as her in the first game, but I just really want to see her be what Joel was in the first game. Joel had all the abilities. Joel had all the upgrade systems. Joel was the main character. And then you played as Ellie as a diversion. I hope in the second game, Ellie is the main character. And then maybe you get some flashback sequences with her mom. And she is the set piece character where you play as her, but she doesn't have all the upgrades and her playstyle is a little bit different. So that's the main thing I'm hoping for Last of Us 2. Gameplay, gameplay, gameplay. Please give your boy some gameplay. And maybe don't get the ire of the internet when they're like, oh man, that trailer was nothing but just score porn. I'm like, yeah, that's true, but also wasn't the first Last of Us violent. That's a whole other thing. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to The Last of Us 2. I think that's going to be awesome. I don't think we'll get any hardware news. There was PlayStation 5 rumors hovering around earlier this year. That's complete BS. Don't believe the hype, at least not on that part. I don't think you'll see that. Days Gone, you're not going to see that at the press conference at all, especially since they just had the Game Informer cover and all of May was full of, you know, Days Gone footage after Days Gone footage and just showing the game off exhaustively. And then you just got the release date for February of next year. They just released that the day before I'm posting this video, or maybe 2 days before. It depends on when I get this video out, because it is very late and I gotta work tomorrow, so we about to see. I'm hoping, now I know that they said they were just focusing on those 4 games, but they did say, of course, we'll have some other stuff there too. I hope one of those other things is going to be Dreams, Media Molecules game. Big Little Big Planet fan here, and while I love the story mode in those games, I love the creations that they made even more, the creations that the internet and people online have made. I can't wait to see the collaborative capabilities of Dreams, and it's the first game since Little Big Planet 1. I was a little bit interested in creation, didn't really make much, or at least nothing of substance. And I didn't really make anything in Little Big Planet 2, and I've yet to even play all of Little Big Planet 3. But Dreams, I'm really digging the creation tools, and it seems so intuitive that I'm starting to get interested in things I could make myself. So that is very promising. I just want to see more of Dreams. I'm hoping that during this press conference they're finally going to announce the date for the open beta that they promised so long ago. They actually promised that by the end of last year, and that did not happen. So I hope we're going to get an open beta date soon for Dreams, so that I can finally get my hands on the tools and figure out how this game plays and what exactly this game is. I'm very excited for Dreams. I want to see more of that, and I hope that whatever they do show of Dreams during the press conference will also give people more of a hint of... I hope it just does more to sell the general public on the game, because people who know Media Molecule already know what's up, already know that this is going to be mind-blowing. People who have seen the game or have heard talks about the game, they already know what's up. I feel like in order to sell more people on that game, they need to show off the story mode and show off the really cool, more interesting aspects of the story mode, or they need to show just look at the crazy shit you can do and make in this game. I feel like they need to really hammer home the fact that all these amazing, things that have been done in Dreams are possible by the very player that they are marketing this game to. I hope they make that known. I think that's the biggest selling point of Dreams, to be completely honest with you. And I can't wait to see if they do that. I can't wait to see how they do that. But either way, I want that public beta date for Dreams, and I hope we just see more of it. That gets me excited. Third-party support, I'm sure you'll get like a couple seconds of, Destiny 2 exclusive content, Forsaken DLC coming later. I got opinions on Destiny 2, not really positive ones, but also ones that aren't really warranted that much because I've yet to even play Destiny 2. I own a copy, and I bought the Season Pass along with it, but haven't even touched it because, every time I hear about that game is bad news. So I just haven't felt the need to touch it. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 as well. I'm not super hyped for that one. It just seems like they've taken the entire soul out of Call of Duty, primarily because there's no single player campaign in the next Black Ops 4 game. Ooh, sorry, I'm talking a lot and then not breathing, so I have to breathe. Anyway, seems like it just seemed, I'm just not interested in the next Call of Duty Black Ops 4, but because they do still have that advertising deal with PlayStation, I'm sure that we might get, just a few seconds of footage of that, just something in a sizzle reel or just a brief mention of it. I don't think it's going to be long on there. Red Dead Redemption 2 also has an advertisement deal with PlayStation. Now, if they really want to break the internet, they could show the first actual, with HUD and everything, gameplay for Red Dead Redemption 2. I think PlayStation is that bold. I don't think Rockstar is down with that. I think Rockstar likes having all the attention to themselves, and they don't want to be part of a long list of exciting stuff. They want to be the one exciting thing in the room. So I really do think they're going to wait to show footage of that until late June or something like that, when no one's expecting it, when it's a totally quiet news day. I think they want to take over the day when they announce their thing. So I don't think we're going to see anything of that. I am looking forward to, there's been rumors of Capcom bringing some heat to E3. And if the Resident Evil 7 announcement or the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite or the Monster Hunter World, if any of those previous collaborations on previous E3 press conferences from PlayStation have anything to say, then it's likely that Capcom will be back this year at the PlayStation conference to show some more stuff. The two main things that is rumored from them are two things I'm actually fairly excited about. Devil May Cry 5 is the main thing I keep hearing. It seems like it's all but a certainty at this point. Like I said, I haven't played much of the Devil May Cry games. Actually, the only Devil May Cry game I've played to completion is DMC, the reboot that a lot of people seem to hate, but I enjoyed pretty well. That actually got me to buy the original trilogy. I've yet to play them. But I'm ready for another Devil May Cry. This is the type of game where once it releases, since I already have the first 3 games, it definitely seems like a motivator to get through those first 3 so I can be ready for 5 and also pick up 4 at some points as well. But yeah, those games have always looked cool, and I think they could bring back, I'm interested to see how they bring that back. I don't know what a Devil May Cry looks like in modern times. I don't know if they'd have to change it or anything. I just feel like Devil May Cry, the franchise as a whole, is such a relic of the early 2000s. At least tonally. Gameplay wise, that gameplay's still fun, but tonally I feel like that is such a, the attitude of Tony Hawk Pro Skater, just add a little bit Japanese in there. I feel like that's what Devil May Cry is. But it's definitely something I just want to see what that game could be. I'm sure it'll be character action as well, but just tonally what that game is. I'm very excited to see what that could be. And also, Resident Evil 2 remake. Lots and lots of rumors about this one. The rumor that most appeals to me, is that they're going to remake Resident Evil 2, but it's actually going to be a really aggressive remake in the way that they might have said that it's going to be in the style of Resident Evil 4. So forget this tank controls pulled back camera of the original Resident Evil and the original Resident Evil remake that they put out not too long ago. And the more, puzzle oriented, get your key card here and combine items in your inventory, the more slow pace. Less of that. It seems like they're going to make this Resident Evil 2 remake it's going to play like Resident Evil 4, where it's basically a third person shooter with survival horror elements and things like that. If that's the case, I would be very, 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 very excited for that. I actually recently beat Resident Evil 4 this year, and that game is so spectacular. So much better than I thought it would be. Not that I thought the game was going to be bad, but I've tried to get into Resident Evil 4 multiple times. I started it on PC, and it didn't really get far because my PC's trash. I started it on PlayStation 3 and got fairly far, but put it down because, time or whatever. Something else came out, I'm sure. And then I beat it on PlayStation 4 and just had a grand old time. So I'd really be excited if Resident Evil 2 is announced and it ends up being there, in the form that I would like. If not, if it's just a regular, Resident Evil 1 type style gameplay, I'd still be interested, but it's definitely probably not something I'd go out and pay for. But Resident Evil 2 remake, and it's basically in the style of Resident Evil 4, sign me up, buddy. I am all the way there. I'd be so excited for that. But what else does PlayStation have? Not too much else. Of course, they still have good relationships with third parties. So we could see some stuff in Square Enix maybe. There's been speculation that, cause I remember, they actually did announce the original Hitman game that came out back in, I want to say 2016. That game was announced on the PlayStation stage. So you could see Warner Brothers doing some stuff with that. Like I said, Warner Brothers seems to have a pretty decent relationship with Sony, with the earlier Rocksteady games being put there, and of course the Hitman stuff. Though actually, I should rephrase, back when that original Hitman came out, that was Square Enix, and now Hitman is under the WB label, so that's different. So I'll stick WB. I feel like WB could show some stuff. Once again, Rocksteady feels like more likely to PlayStation than Microsoft, so could see that. I'd be excited for that. But to go back to Square Enix, Square Enix I feel like is a company that has potential to show stuff at the E3 stage. Possibly Kingdom Hearts 3 stuff. If they don't blow their load for Kingdom Hearts 3 in their own press conference, then Square Enix could show a release date at the PlayStation stage. It would definitely get a really big pop, really big audience reaction. Or they could just show, something from one of their other games. I'm sure this would be a great place to put the Final Fantasy VII remake. If there's any progress to report on that, then you'd probably drop a trailer or a little bit of gameplay right there in the PlayStation conference. That would definitely get some hype. And I'd be excited to see whatever that could be. And that's effectively all I can think of for third parties. Now, the other thing I want to say for PlayStation, something that I feel like is a possibility. Two things. Bluepoint, they've already announced that they are working on another game. And even though Shadow of the Colossus came out earlier this year, their next game they said is also going to be a remaster, and it's actually going to be on a bigger scale than the Shadow of the Colossus remaster, or I guess remake, because they actually did a lot of work on that game. I feel like there's a chance they could announce what that is coming up. Now, this Bluepoint remaster, it also feels like a good candidate for what PlayStation is doing leading up to their E3 conference. They're actually having smaller, less megaton announcements leading up to E3, and they're doing one of those each day starting this past Wednesday. On the day I'm planning on putting this video out, they're announcing a brand new PlayStation 4 game. Don't know what that could be. It could be some random indie game, or it could be fucking God of War 2 or something crazy. I don't know what it could be, but I feel like another Bluepoint remake, that would be a good candidate for something you announce outside of the press conference, and then it can have its own day and let that news shine a little bit. So I'd be interested in that. But I do feel like PlayStation has another big title to show. Especially with Days Gone being so close, because they've now announced a release date. And with Dreams, I feel like being not too far off either. I feel like Dreams has been in the oven so long, and they're showing a lot more of it recently. I feel like Dreams is going to drop, if not I don't feel like Dreams is going to come out this year just because there's too much coming out and it would just pretty much be set out to die. But I could definitely see it next year. I could see a summer next year being a really good sweet spot for Dreams. So I feel like that one's on its way out too. And then after that, all we have to look forward to is Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding. I feel like at this point, Sony is going to need another big, massive tentpole game to get people hyped about for the years to come. Something, because we've been looking at Death Stranding for all these years. We've been looking at Ghost of Tsushima is still somewhat relatively new. I think we found out about that late last year. And Spider-Man we've been looking at forever. Days Gone we've been looking at forever. I feel like they need another game to just be able to drag to all these trade shows and show us for prolonged periods of time. And I feel like that is something that they could announce here. I don't know what that game could be. It could be from any third-party studio. It could be from any first-party studio. I don't know what everyone's working on, but I have a really good feeling in my heart that they're gearing up for another thing. Now, this wouldn't be something that's coming out anytime soon, but it'd definitely be something that they want to show just to keep that narrative of PlayStation is where you get all the exclusive games. They want to keep that narrative up for a really long time. And with them losing games such as Days Gone and such as Dreams pretty soon, I think they need to start filling those gaps of hype, things to look forward to with something new. And I think they're going to do that at this press conference or possibly save it for PSX at the end of this year. But my money's on E3. They're going to show something new. Don't know what that could be. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm hoping it's Ready at Dawn is back with another game of some sort. The Order 1887. Or actually, I'm hoping it's just since the whole idea of the Order is that they live forever and they're immortal, maybe it's like modern day or something, and these people who have lived forever have to deal with the modern times and things in our current environment, or just way past 1866. Hopefully they're in like the 1990s or something crazy like that. That would be interesting. Yeah, I feel like Ready at Dawn is about ready to show off another game, even though they're doing a lot of VR stuff on the side right now. But if that team is still the size I think it is, I think that would be a good candidate for something else to show. So yeah, that's about what I think for the PlayStation conference, the Microsoft conference, and the Nintendo conference. I'm very excited to look at those. Microsoft's going to be Saturday, or at least I believe, no, I think Microsoft might be Sunday. Anyway, a lot of these press conferences are coming up. The first one I know that is happening is EA Play on Saturday. And then from Saturday, there's a lot of conferences. Then Sunday's a lot of conferences. Monday's a lot of conferences. And then we're actually at E3 come this Tuesday. So I'm very excited to see all the new announcements and to go on this super hype-filled journey with all you guys. Like I said, I'm going to be interested in all the PlayStation stuff, but I look forward to all the things you guys have to be excited about for Nintendo fans and all the things you guys have to be excited about as Microsoft fans. I hope we all have a good E3, and I can't wait to, get hype with all the rest of you. So, without further, I actually took off work to go to the PlayStation conference. I'm going to that movie theater experience. Boy, very excited for it. So anyway, without further ado, this has been Emmett Watkins Jr., and I'll see you later in the next video. Keep it real, keep it trill.